Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about physiological health and stress in the Black community, cortisol levels in the Black community, how it can affect not only us but also the Black birthing community and affect birth outcomes for Black people. So, yesterday was the second time that America failed both the Black community and Breanna Taylor. So right now, Black America is once again in a state of distress. I mean, we could argue that. We can actually argue that America is constantly in a state of distress because every single month something happens. I mean, a Black person is killed. Someone gets away with it, whether that be police officer, someone white and racist. So we're constantly in fight or flight mode. We're constantly in a state of distress. So I have some notes written here for you guys. Hopefully you guys can read my handwriting. I wrote them purposely so I don't talk too fast. I have a habit of talking really fast. So hopefully this will help me slow down a little bit. So, race-related stressors are associated with physiological stress responses, meaning that race-related stress has a sustained impact on our physiological well-being and our stress responses. This is specifically for African Americans or Black people that are living in America. So that means maybe a Black person was living in Germany, maybe 3 years later, 2 years later, they would have the same, if not similar, or rising to similar, negatively affected cortisol levels, stress-related responses, lower recovery times as far as cell regeneration, brain recovery times, just as if they were born here in America. That is specifically because of race and racial injustice, racism here in America, social injustice that we see here on a daily basis. So let's talk about cortisol levels. Cortisol is a hormone that's secreted from our adrenal glands. And so naturally what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to be high in the morning. So when we get up, we're supposed to be energized, so we can get ready for our day. And then as the time goes on, they gradually drop, or they gradually fall. And then at night, they're supposed to be at its lowest so that we can sleep peacefully. Unfortunately for the Black community in America, this is not the case. Our cortisol levels are overall dysregulated. Oftentimes in Black people, you will see that we have kind of a flat line throughout the day. And then when we're faced or we see social injustice, then we have these substantial peaks in cortisol levels. This over time causes severe dysregulation in cortisol levels. And dysregulation in cortisol levels causes things like negative cardiovascular health, delayed response times, delayed recovery times, delayed cell regeneration. We also have memory loss. I think I had something else on here too. Overall, long-term negative health effects. Okay, so studies have been shown that you can test your cortisol levels through your saliva. So studies have shown that if you compare a white person versus a Black person, or a group of white people versus a group of Black people living in America, you take their cortisol levels initially. One, you'll see the distinctive dysregulation in Black people's cortisol levels. But you will also see that if both parties or both groups are faced with something, a social injustice issue, a race-related issue, racism. So let's just, for instance, take Breanna Taylor yesterday. A lot of Black people, if not all Black people, are negatively affected by this. It's disheartening. It's very stressful. So our cortisol levels, as soon as we got the ruling for that, which was a slap in the face, our cortisol levels are at its highest, all-time high. We experience anxiety. In that moment, we might experience anxiety attacks in that moment. Our brain is, for the most part, going haywire. Our hearts are racing. We're either crying, sobbing, filled with anger, disgust. Sorry. Now this is causing a substantial rise in our cortisol levels. Now, over time, when this keeps happening, when we keep having these peaks, these rises every time, which they will happen every time you're faced with a social injustice or a race-related issue, then over time, our cortisol secretion from our adrenal gland becomes disrupted, furthermore pushing to the dysregulation issue. So we might not get good rest at night, or while we're resting or while we're sleeping, we're often stressing even while we're asleep. We're stressing even while we're asleep. We're not getting good night's rest. Like I said, that does not improve or actually has a negative health effect on our cell regeneration, brain recovery, memory, cardiovascular health, and more. So imagine this just being for the Black community. I didn't even get into the Black birthing community yet. So it's true that our cortisol levels in the Black community will peak, in random times of the day, especially, like I said, a direct correlation to race-related issues. Now imagine a Black pregnant person with these haywire hormone secretions, or they can't sleep at night, on top of just regular pregnancy woes, complaints. And then you also have institutionalized racism, systemic racism in the hospitals. Now, it's not even only in the hospitals, because now I see, as a birth worker myself, I'm a doula, and I'm also a student midwife. I see that there's racism even in out of hospital births. Within the birth community. This goes for doulas, student midwives, childbirth educators, IBCLCs. I see a lot of implicit bias. I see a lot of white silence, and I actually did a panel on white silence. It was based out of Canada. I did that like a few months ago, and white silence is basically you saying, or you not standing up, or you're not speaking up, and when you're doing that, you're saying what's happening is okay. So imagine a Black pregnant person having to choose, okay, where would I be the most safe at? What provider will I be the most safe with? So that's an issue in itself. And then you add on things like Breanna Taylor, Eric Gartner. I could sit here and name 50 names at just once, really. But pregnant people, the Black birthing community sees this on a regular basis. So it is our job as a Black community, and furthermore, the entire birth community, to protect the Black birthing community, to help better Black pregnancy and birth, and Black infants furthermore. So, like I said, imagine a Black person seeing what happened with Breanna Taylor. This is not only affecting that person, that person and their cortisol levels. This fight or flight response is also, and constant stress and anxiety is being signaled and sent down to the baby in the womb. These things can trigger things like premature labor, low birth weight babies, and then that furthermore causes things like babies not being able to regulate their temperature more efficiently. We have frantic birth communities, someone who's not ready for their baby to come, longer stays in NICU. There was also just a study recently published, which we already knew. We didn't really need the research to show it. To see it or know it, that Black babies are more likely to survive, especially if they're premature, with a Black provider versus a white provider. These are all things that the Black birthing community continuously has to face, recognize, realize, and deal with. oftentimes it's left only up to the Black birth workers or the Black community or that Black family to take care of this Black person, when really and truly it should be all. If you are in the birth community, period, it is your job to take care of the Black birthing community, because our rates are substantially high for mortality and morbidity, and also infant death. These statistics go all the way up until a year postpartum, meaning a year after you have your baby. The Black birthing community die 4 to 6 times more than our white counterparts here giving birth in America. This is a direct result to systemic racism, institutionalized racism, implicit bias, other races not listening to us, other races not believing us, so on and so forth. So you have that, and then you have, things like cortisol dysregulation, constant stress and anxiety. This even dwindles down into a breastfeeding relationship, and postpartum depression. So I want everyone to be very aware of this. I want the birth community to be more responsible. I want the white birth community to be more responsible, or I'll just further say non-POC, non-people of color. I want you guys to be more responsible. Do not be silent in times like this. If these are things that you can't understand or face or respect, then you should not be taking on Black clients. You should not be touching Black bodies whatsoever. This is a very hard time for Black America. I mean, to be honest, it's like I said, it's a constant fight or flight. It's a constant stress. But then when we have big things that happen, like yesterday with Breanna Taylor, and this is very dangerous. It's very dangerous for the Black community, and furthermore for the Black birthing and pregnant community. I hope you guys understand, or got more of an understanding on cortisol levels. Like I said, cortisol levels, hopefully I said that, the cortisol levels are a direct response to stress. And then of course, racial injustice, racism, implicit bias, those are all very stressful things. I want you guys to protect yourself, protect your energy, protect your mind. Unfortunately, if we see something racist, yes, I mean, levels in our hormone levels and levels in our blood will of course negatively react, and this also causes weathering, which is the constant or the overtime process of your body breaking down. So just protect Black people, protect Black birthing people, protect Black pregnancy. Also respect and acknowledge every time racial inequity, racial injustice is happening, because it's more than just hurting our feelings. It's literally affecting our health.